appreciate that. You know, I miss the hay wagon outside. I've done this a couple of times in the past. This is always a fun event, and I look forward to making the walk, you know, through all the barbecue pits this afternoon. But you know, I want to say a couple things. So Owensboro has always been known for the barbecue. I have been here many times in my life, almost never without going home with an overfull stomach from eating the quality barbecue that's produced here. But you know, you're also well known for NASCAR. You know, you've produced a lot of drivers. And for those of you that don't know this, in my background, along with Jerry Carroll and several others, I was involved in the original dream to build the Kentucky Speedway up in Sparta. And one of your local boys, Darrell Walter, was one of our original spokespeople. So I have more than a few ties to Owensboro, always have. Still have a lot of friends here in Western Kentucky from my days at the University of Kentucky. But you know, last weekend we had the Kentucky Derby in Louisville. You know, that's about odds. And 20 people have the dream of winning the Kentucky Derby, and some have the short odds horse like Big Brown, and others have the long odds horses that finish up the track. So when I originally just talked about entering this race, people talked about this war chest that Mitch McConnell has. And how do you expect to beat someone with a war chest of maybe $25 million, of which having such little record to stand on will be mostly spent destroying you? And I thought, those are pretty long odds. But I spent my life fighting odds. I grew up in a small town. I grew up in a union household. Grew up on a small farm. Spent 5 years of my life without indoor plumbing. And my dad used to have this saying about America, that you could go from the outhouse to the penthouse in America. And my dad was a great inspiration to me. My dad fought World War II. He was part of America's greatest generation, as Tom Brokaw talks about. And because I watched how hard he worked every day, he gave me great values. And I was able to work hard and live the American dream. Started a small company with 3 employees, built it to over 60,000. I was able to help others build large companies along the way. All the companies that I've started and been involved in, they were started and built in Kentucky. And they're still around today. They still hire thousands of Kentuckians. Their home base is still here, and they still pay taxes. Even the one company that spent 10 years had part of their corporate headquarters moved to Chicago. They kept the bulk of their employees, and they kept the bulk of their activities in Kentucky, because the people that our team had hired were Kentuckians, and they didn't want to leave Kentucky. And they didn't want to lose the people, so they kept the bulk of the operations here. That's what Kentuckians can do when they're given leadership. Kentuckians are given the ability to expand their horizons. And that's what I want to do in the Senate. A Senate that has witnessed a president for 8 years, and a senator that his main ally lead us down a path, a direction that 81% of America thinks is wrong. And I happen to fall in that 81%. And look at what they've done. They inherited a budget following 8 years of a Democratic president that was looking toward potentially a $5.6 trillion surplus in the direction it was headed. We're now looking at a $9 trillion deficit and debt. $9 trillion. Nearly $30,000 for every man, woman, and child in this country. Now, things have got to change. Things have got to stop. You can't ignore the fact that the dollar today has decreased in value by 40% plus. I never thought I'd see the day the Canadian dollar would be worth more than the American dollar. We're in a situation where we're in a war in Iraq. We're still in a war in Afghanistan. We're still worried about Pakistan, and we now are looking over our shoulder at Iran, when our resources in this country are being depleted at every level for this war. And we talk about a river being a widening force. We've got one in Louisville. 24 years of this senator, we don't have a bridge built. But we're building them in Iraq. Northern Kentucky to Cincinnati has the same issues. We have a structure in this country, a highway system that's nearly 52 years old, and has had almost no maintenance. Because the Republicans have convinced us that they're not going to tax you to run government. So they're going to borrow to run government. You know, Al Franken has a saying that Republicans convince you that government doesn't work. And then they get elected and prove it. And that's exactly what has happened with this administration. And that's exactly what has happened with this Senate. And everybody in this room should be concerned about what's going to happen with that debt. Your children are going to pay it? Your grandchildren are going to pay it? I don't think so. I don't think they want to. And you got healthcare costs, $2.1 trillion last year. 50% used by 5% of the population, because along with the natural aging, we have 47 million people uninsured. You know, this country is in deep trouble, but with great leadership, it can come out of it. We've done it many times before. And it's time to have leadership that's not bought out by special interests, that can say no at the right times. And Jim Webb had a saying, I think, that sums all this up for you to think about. An old farm saying, any jackass can kick a barn door down, but it takes a carpenter to rebuild it. Thank you. That's about where we are.